Is Cogman in this one, right? No. What?
Michael Bay made Transformers 2 during the Hollywood writers' strike, as if to prove their point. It's a movie where 2 robots and 1 human are raised from the dead, but we see the human go to robot heaven. It's worse than the first movie in almost every conceivable way. Almost. To its credit, it has 3 good jokes.
We went to get you a tighter shirt.
There isn't a tighter shirt. We checked.
Yucko!
What? You don't get Christmas bonuses standing around. You want those new teeth you saw in Sky Mall?
It's my dream.
My father, while he was a wheel, the first wheel. Do you know what he transformed into?
No.
Nothing!
And another good thing is that they weaselized Starscream.
The humans have taken it.
Only to help spawn our new army.
Furthermore, this movie features much more goo and slime than before. Hypothesis. Dear Transformers 2 production team, could you make this movie even more good?
This kid said she wants the movie to be more goo. More goo.
True to form, we start with some robot-on-man violence, but this time, it's happening a long time ago. But don't worry, this movie doesn't take place in the past. It's actually happening today. Today, the Autobots have partnered with the military to hunt down the remaining Decepticons in hiding. Optimus Prime is there, and his first line in the movie is, Next, we settle into a scene with Shia getting ready to go off to college, but he makes a troubling discovery. For the last 2 years, a little piece of the cube has been stuck to his shirt, and it falls off, and that's so stupid I can barely even make talk words about it. So the Allspark installs itself in his brain, then it creates the evil Kitchen Appliance Alliance. Bumblebee kills them, and the scene-to-robot fight ratio remains a perfect 1-to-1. Anyway, check this out. She walks up the stairs, and then we cut, and then she walks up the stairs. Shia and Megan discuss their future, and here we can see a classic demonstration of the 180-degree rule. This rule states that the camera must spin in different directions until your brain heats up to 180 degrees. By the way, Megan works in an auto shop with a big sign that just says, "Music!" So the US is mad about how the Autobots seem to attract relentless chaos wherever they go, but the Army objects that they're best friends now.
We've shared blood, sweat, and precious metal together.
This politician man says that the robots have to leave the Earth because apparently that's within his jurisdiction. The Transformers will find no quarter on the other 94% of the world's landmass.
God made us in his image. Who made him?
The Allspark made him. He talks about it all the time. I thought you guys were best friends. Shia goes to college. Actually, he goes to Princeton, but they wouldn't let them use their name because there's a scene where Tony Award-winning actress Julie White gets high on a pot brownie like the moment she sets foot on campus. It happens 30 minutes into the movie, and it continues happening for quite some time, and I am already so tired. By the way, Judy Witwicky is in the movie for 5 minutes and 11 seconds, which is 28 seconds longer than the villain in the title. Shia meets his roommate, Leo, who is a quirky young hacker man, because if you go to make a movie, you've got to have a guy who does computers. Leo runs a website dedicated to proving that the Transformers are real after the government covered up all of that. One of his friends says,
The internet's pure truth.
but no living person believes this. Certainly not today. Also, they have a sign on their wall that just says, "Sexy!" Shia goes to a big campus rager and starts doing weird boy stuff. A woman instantly notices and demands to come home with him. I went to college and I can tell you that doing cake drawings on the table doesn't work. So she gets in his car and they seem to drive through some kind of pocket dimension where you can move both forward and backward at the same time. In this 3D simulation, we can see that the only way to achieve that is if the car were spinning in place. And here's the worst part. While Shia was busy experiencing unreality, he stood Megan up on their first web chat date.
I can't believe you're gonna stand me up on our first web chat date.
I want to know why they just spliced the last 2 words of that line in. Why not just re-record the whole thing? What was their working relationship with Megan Fox so bad at this point that they had to Frankenstein this line together out of multiple takes? Or maybe, like, were they going to use Skype but the sponsorship fell through at the last minute? I guess not every piece of film trivia deserves this kind of scrutiny. Meanwhile, this satellite spits out a dog, and then he spits out evil beads to do evil deeds. Later, Bumblebee punishes him by ripping his spine out. They steal the last remaining shard of the Allspark, which Sam used to kill Megatron, and they use it to revive Megatron. Hair of the dog, I guess. Megatron goes into space to meet his secret boss, the Fallen. You know, the one whose revenge it's of. They make a plan to take the Allspark data out of Shia's brain. This is actually pretty much the exact plot of Johnny Mnemonic. But also, hey, why do they need his brain? Doesn't Megatron have like 99% of the Allspark in his chest? I guess in his position, I wouldn't mention that either. Also in this scene, we learn that you can grow Transformers out of eggs. They're kind enough not to explain how that works. The next morning, Shia talks to Optimus in a graveyard, foreshadowing Optimus' untimely death. Or maybe Shia's, I guess.
Well, I'm a normal kid with normal problems.
Wow, he's just like me. Shia's not normal though, because again, he has a robot alien god object where his brain should be. This becomes a problem in class. Hey, Dwight's in this. Anyway, one of my favorite movie tropes is how students will just laugh at everything.
All you eager, nubile young minds on the very cusp of adulthood.
All you recent high school graduates whose careers depend on my approval are so hot. Thank you for laughing. That was incredibly weird of me to say. So Sam freaks out. He calls Megan and says, I am freaking out. And check this out. She's walking down the stairs, and then in the next shot, she's walking down the stairs. Megan Fox puts this guy in a box and brings him to Shia, but he's being faithless. But it doesn't count because she's a murder robot. They run to the library and it gets all blowed up, but there's never a shot of an old librarian going, shh. So the scene's a complete waste. So Megatron arrives to put a worm in his nose that shows what he knows. Then the heroes arrive. Optimus rips this guy's face in half with his hook hands. Classic hero technique. They distract Optimus by asking what his favorite chips are, and he says Lay's because
You'll never stop at one.
And then while he's thinking about the delicious salty snap of Ruffles in his mouth, Megatron sneaks up and gets him, and his whole life flashes before his eyes.
It's a boy.
Little Optimus meet little Megatron.
I will always be there for you, brother. I must go to Earth and become a truck.
Prime time is over. Mime time begins. The Fallen goes on TV and says,
Attention, world citizens. You have to kill this guy. In return, I will explode Paris.
Then they capture his parents and release them later, which is pretty much exactly what they did with them in the last movie. And just when it seems like our hero's backs are against the wall, the new guy says, wait, I know of one man who can—
John Turturro, working at a meat store.
While Shia talks to him, these two enter some kind of trance state. Then they discuss something or other about finding some kind of power source. I get the sense that lines were not written for this conversation.
No, the source is before. Whatever the energon source is, it predates them. It's before them.
So it comes before that.
Correct.
This little wretch shows them where they can find some ancient Transformers who know how to revive Optimus. They say that the closest one is at the Smithsonian Air Museum in Washington, D.C., which, if you don't know, is a crowded city. But they shot the scene at this other museum in Chantilly, Virginia, which is like among trees with big fields and everything. But hold the phone! None of those lasers were even pointing at DC in the first place! So what am I even talking about? Anyway, this very old Jetman teleports them to Egypt, and now they have to go on a little Egypt adventure. After passing the Willy Wonka man's secret car touching test, they call the military and say, hey military, we don't know where we're going, but we need you to come drop Optimus somewhere in Egypt. It takes them a while to get through though, because they called during mandatory poetry night. And I see my great kingdom laid bare, as burning winter's blade wrecks my ships and castles. So they find the Tomb of the Primes. The story here is that ye ancient Transformers had a disagreement about whether they should turn our sun into battery juice. So the good ones put the sun juicer in a pyramid and hid the key in a tomb of their own bodies. Now, maybe they could have just destroyed the machine or put the key more than a few miles away, but it's important to consider that this is a totally different species and their problem-solving skills may have evolved over time to just not be there. Shia finds the Matrix, but it turns to dust, so he puts it in a sock. He plans to sprinkle it on Optimus until he comes back to life.
This is gonna work.
How do you know it's gonna work?
Because I believe it.
He's manifesting. He's using the secret. The Decepticons all attack. There's a ton of them. You can imagine how it goes from here. Lots of... But they do some stuff to shake it up. For instance, you can marvel at the meaningless inclusion of the parents. As soon as they show up, Shia tells them they have to leave, and they say, no! But then they go anyway. He tells Megan to leave too, and she says,
I'm not gonna go without.
And he's like, that's fair. Discussion over. You can also soak in the confusing sights and sounds of Devastator, who is 5 robots for the price of 1. Or buy the toy and enjoy 1 robot for the price of a new TV. But the main attraction is this part where Megatron materializes out of some smoke and blows up Shia, and this man, whose last name is Robert, tries to resuscitate him, and he makes this face. For some reason, the first time I watched that, it just broke my brain. The movie's just this. Anyway, Shia glimpses Nirvana, but Megan's powerful love drags his soul back into the agony of his tattered body, so he goes and does the same thing to Optimus. He wakes up and he's like,
I don't know where I am, but I know I must kill.
And then Optimus Prime, the hero, beloved for generations, says, give me your face.
Give me your face.
Rips the Fallen's freaking face off, then punches through his chest and crushes his heart in front of his eyes. Dear Mr. Bay, I hear you're killing Optimus in the new movie. R.I.P. I hope you revive him so he can properly face off with the Fallen.
I don't understand. Why would they want this? Optimus rip him face off?
Shia returns to class and his professor says,
So glad you could join us, Professor Einstein.
Yeah, I was kind of busy.
I wonder if they recognize him from the time that every TV in the entire world told them to kill him.
We will destroy this boy.
That actually happened to me once.
Human species, if you kill the fleshling known as native birds, I will email you $1 million. Just think of that. Think of all the misread checks from your YouTuber roommate it could cover. Together with the Decepticons,
Look, man,
we can create a world free.
if you kill me, we can split the reward 50-50. I don't think that's gonna work.
60-40?